Hello, Raider Nation, and welcome to the Believe in Raiders podcast. I'm Dennis Ackerman, pleased to be joined by former Raider great and current quarterbacks coach for Valpo football, Stanford Route. Stan, the Raiders up and down. Season continues with a head-scratching, deflating, disappointing 34-18 loss to the Denver Broncos. The Raiders got off to a great start, jumping out to a 10-0 lead. Looked like they were about to go up a couple of scores, and then the game completely changed. Gardner Minshew throws a 100-yard pick six, and on one play, the entire complexity of that game changed, and from there on out, the Broncos went on to score 34 unanswered points. Beg your pardon. Stan, let me begin with Gardner Minshew. He's a veteran. I mean, I know he's on his fourth team in 6 years, but he is a veteran quarterback. He made a rookie throw. In that situation, Stan, you just cannot make that kind of play. You got to come away with some kind of points, right?
Oh, no doubt about it. Anytime you're down there, you have to be able to come away with points. I think that turning the ball over in the red zone, it's so demoralizing to the offense. Obviously, as a defender, as a defensive player, it's something that it riles you up just because you feel like that could potentially be a 14-point swing, where obviously the Raiders could have gone up then 17-0, and now instead it's now a touchdown the other way. So that's truly a 14-point swing. But those types of things happen. It's unfortunate, but yes, anytime you're in the red zone, you want to always at least walk away with 3 points.
All right, so then let me ask you this. Let's get to, Stan, that particular play. I mean, as I just mentioned, it changed the entire game on that pick six, and Patrick Surtain, by the way. Stan, the broadcasters even said it seemed to suck all the life out of the Raiders sideline. I mean, Stan, it was only the second quarter, a lot of football still to be played. I mean, you see college teams, or Stan, even high school teams that you've coached, they could fold from a play like that, but a professional team, I don't really feel like they should, and they did, Stan. So let me ask you this, and I know you're not around this team every day, but from what you're seeing, does it lack confidence? Does it lack mental toughness? What do you see from this team to fold the way they did?
I think that there's probably a couple of different things at play. I think that probably just stability is probably the biggest thing that I would say, because we see there's still the turnover within the coaches. And obviously we know AP is now the full-time head coach. He has the interim tag pulled off, but just last year they had fired Josh McDaniels. Before that, remember, it was the John Gruden fiasco and things like that. So just, I think the stability that plays a lot of it, that plays a big part in it. I think that not having your solidified quarterback of the future. Obviously, the Raiders wanted to go ahead and try to get one of the top guys in the draft. They weren't able to do that, so they had to just stick with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. So you have that. Then obviously, who's your new number one receiver going to be? Because Devonte Adams, it appears that he's going to be on his way out. So there's a myriad of things that are working against the Raiders right now. Stability, lack of playmakers at certain positions, not having your stud quarterback or your star guy who's going to be the franchise for the next 10, 12 years. So there's a multitude of problems that are going on in this team. And then anytime you don't have that solidified quarterback, anytime you don't feel that you have a defense that can go out there and be able to stop the bleeding in certain situations, it's going to always go ahead and now start to weigh on the football team in certain areas. You even go to the run game. It's not something that's stable enough that you can go ahead and depend on it the same way that Monday comes after Sunday and so forth. So it all starts with stability, the quarterback position, being able to get off the field on defense in a timely manner. You look at Maxx Crosby, obviously he's a stud, but who's the next person that can go ahead and let's just go ahead and produce pressure on the quarterback at the same clip that a Maxx Crosby, because, oh yeah, exactly, there isn't one over there. So there's several different problems on this team, and it's going to take time to go ahead and be able to try to rectify all of the leaks that you see.
Stan, you just mentioned all those problems, and right before we came on the podcast, I was thinking there's one name that seems to keep coming back to me with all the instability, and it's a name that's been associated with this franchise for I don't know how many decades now. Mark Davis doesn't seem to get any kind of blame. I feel like it's the coaches, it's the general manager. The only time I feel like he's been really taking any fire, taking any heat is when he didn't bring back Bisaccia after they made the playoffs. But I feel like Mark really has gotten a free pass for the most part. And that's where you kind of go back. And I was even, just watching the Cowboys and the Steelers. The Steelers, beg your pardon. They've had, 3 head coaches the early 70s. Stan, you talk about stability. I think it starts at the very top with Mark Davis, and it just hasn't been there.
Yeah,
How in his later years. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah. I mean, anytime you're thinking about stability within any organization or just any company, obviously it's going to start at the top with the owner, the vice president, and, people like that. And I think that, for Mark Davis, obviously we see how he really went after John Gruden to try to get him out of the ESPN broadcasting booth, get him down on the sidelines. That didn't work out. Then obviously we see that they go to Bisaccia for the interim tag. They don't bring him back on a full head coaching type of position. They go to a Josh McDaniels. That didn't work. And now they're going to an Antonio Pierce, who isn't necessarily the biggest name, because before he was going after John Gruden, he's going after Josh McDaniels, bigger names. Now it seems like he's going for the best fit with an Antonio Pierce. And I think that it just takes time to go ahead and find your guy. You look at the Las Vegas, and then when I was there, the Oakland Raiders, it was led by Al Davis. Well, Al Davis ran the show. Al Davis passes in 2011, God rest his soul. And then now Mark Davis is thrust into that position where he's now got to lead the franchise versus being groomed or being easily integrated into the franchise. So I think that has a lasting effect on it as well. And it's going to take time. Obviously, I know what you're saying, that he needs to get more blame and he needs to be more at the forefront of where the finger pointing is going. But I just think it takes time to go ahead and get this ship righted. And no matter how much stability you have, you look right now in the right over my shoulder, you see the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Dallas Cowboys that are playing. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, ever since Big Ben left, they have had a lot of turnover at the quarterback position. And where have they gone? Yeah, they gone to the playoffs because Mike Tomlin's a damn good head coach, but they're by no means a Super Bowl contender or anything like that, just because if you don't have the right quarterback, if you don't have a franchise guy, and it's even more and more in today's game than it was back in my day. If you don't have a franchise quarterback, you essentially just do not have a chance at being a team that's going to always be in the winner's bracket and in the playoffs.
Yeah, I will say that this Mark Davis did take heat, though, for Josh McDaniels as well. I need to correct myself on that. All right, let's go ahead and get our promo read in here now. And Bet Online is always your sports information headquarters this season, as we have you covered for all your sports wagering needs. Basketball, MLB, NHL, hockey, right to UFC and boxing. Bet Online is the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info, including live betting options, your favorite casino, and card games you can play right from your home. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game begins. All right, Stan, Gardner Minshew was eventually replaced by Aiden O'Connell in the third quarter after throwing his second interception of the game. Minshew finished 12 for 17, 137 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Aiden O'Connell, I didn't think fared much better, 10 of 20, 94 yards. He also threw a pick. Stan, it's the second time in 5 games O'Connell has replaced Minshew. Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce said, "I don't have an answer for that one yet," when he was asked which quarterback would start next week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Stan, let me ask you this. Is it time for a quarterback change, or is it time for everybody to just take a deep breath? Let's let 24 hours sink in, and then let's our rationale take over and make a decision then.
It's time for a quarterback change if you really think that Aiden O'Connell is going to take you there. It's time for a quarterback change if you think that Aiden O'Connell is the quarterback of the future. And I think by the simple common sense that one would lead to be concluded with, if that was the case, they would have had Aiden O'Connell be the starting quarterback to start off the season. If that was the case, they wouldn't have been looking for a quarterback in the draft, trying to move up to get one in this past draft. So you could go ahead and make the change, but I don't think that's going to change or affect. That's not going to have any adverse impact on the problem. All it is just simply putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. And I think that you can go ahead and simply try to confuse activity with achievement, but it's not going to change anything. And I think that right now you're really just simply looking for what do we know we need to go ahead and attack in free agency or the draft this coming off season, because that's pretty much where you're now at. Obviously the Chiefs, they're the supremacy of the AFC and the NFL for that matter. We know that. the Raiders right now, can they compete in the AFC West? Can they compete to try to go to the playoffs? Maybe they can go and get on a run somewhere somehow, but right now it doesn't look like they're primed and ready to be able to go ahead and compete with the better teams within the AFC. So you got to start looking for the future. You got to start looking at what positions can you go ahead and now go ahead and put a marker through that, okay, we're solidified here. It doesn't need to be a point of emphasis in the offseason, and certain positions do need to be a point of emphasis. So when you ask that question, it's almost kind of like a purposeless type of answer, because is it going to change anything? I don't think it is. So yeah, you can go ahead and make the move, but one thing I learned, never confuse activity with achievement, because you can simply be running in place, but you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, and Stan, one thing I worry about with the Raiders' offensive line, it's very leaky, as we saw against Denver. I will say one thing: Minshew is a better scrambler. Aiden O'Connell's more of a pocket guy. Just you worry if they do make that change, is Aiden just going to be a sitting duck back there? But you know what? We're just going to have to wait and see if indeed the Raiders go ahead and make that quarterback change. Stan, I also don't want to put all the blame on Minshew. I think Raiders offensive coordinator Luke Getsy deserves some blame as well. I looked this up, Stan. I researched this. He called 5 straight running plays on first down after Minshew threw that pick 6. They all resulted in minimal success, leaving the Raiders with a lot of second and long, third and long. Stan, those drives resulted in 3 punts and a turnover. And Stan, as a coach yourself now, I look at this and I'm like, okay, is Getsy just so concerned that he doesn't want Minshew to make a mistake? I'm going to run the ball because this is conservative, but I know it's not going to end up in a mistake, which I don't even know if that's true, because the Raiders offense has surrendered touchdowns in back-to-back weeks by the defense. I don't feel like Getsy is playing to his strengths because he's so worried about them making a mistake, and I'm just going to try to establish the run and try to minimize the damage. That's the way it feels like to me. Is that accurate? Is my way off base?
So you're asking, do you feel that they're holding back Getsy?
I think Getsy's holding back I just think he is so worried about mistakes, especially after the pick 6. I think they went so conservative on offense in fear of not making another mistake that it just completely backfires on them. It puts them in second and long. It puts them in third and long. And then the defense can just tee off. Denver's got a good defense. I mean, I think they ended up with 3 sacks, 3 turnovers. They had the pick 6. That's a good defense. I don't think their offense did much, but they didn't need to, because the Raiders, offense was so anemic from about the midway through the second quarter on. I think Getsy is almost coaching not to lose instead of to win. Is it?
Well, when you have to look at the quarterback situation that he has with the uncertainty, and neither one of these guys obviously was a high draft pick. And neither one of these guys has that superpower of the athleticism of an Anthony Richardson, or the big strong arm of a Josh Allen, or the playmaking ability of a Caleb Williams, or the accuracy of a Jaden Daniels. And I can go all the way down the list. So in many aspects, if an offensive coordinator, a play caller, doesn't have a guy who has a superpower, whether he's really fast like a Lamar Jackson, or really big and strong like a Cam Newton, or just really insanely accurate like, let's say, a Joe Burrow or Matthew Stafford or something like that, that hinders him, because he can't have the full entirety of his playbook. It's got to be watered down. It's got to be minimized. It's got to be limited to a certain degree. So yeah, to your point, yeah, maybe they are holding him back because he's not able to really call plays like he really wants to, because he more so has to call it around some of their limitations. So there always is that aspect, even on the defense side of the ball, with a defense coordinator that knows that his D-line isn't that dominant, or his corners can't cover really that well, or things like that. So so that happens often, where you'll see a coordinator and the limitations of his personnel obviously will handicap, or should I say, that'll be kind of like the Achilles heel of his play calling, because he's not able to embrace the full entirety of his arsenal that he would love in his playbook.
All right, finally, Stan, I want to get to something that you talked about last week, and it was on the Devonte Adams situation. Look, the Raiders, a lot of the players had to answer still about the Devonte Adams situation after the game, and I thought Maxx Crosby, he pretty much summed it up. He said, you think I'm not used to this shit going on here?
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
It is what it is. I've been dealing with my whole career, so it is what it is. I mean, Stan, I feel bad for Max because he has 2 more sacks today after missing last week's game, but until they get this resolved, this thing's going to hang over the franchise.
No doubt about it. It's just something that it'll hang over the franchise, almost kind of like a bad smell. I think the sooner that they can go ahead and get this deal done, the better. But the thing is, nobody's going to be enamored or blow the Raiders away with a trade offer or anything like that, a trade proposal, as long as right now, currently, Devonte Adams is not playing, because I don't know how extensive his hamstring injury is.
Right.
I don't want to trade for this guy 2 first-round picks or something like that. And then all of a sudden he gets on my team and I now see that he has some sort of a chronic injury that we knew nothing about because the Raiders didn't tell us. So I think that also plays a big part in it. But I'm pretty sure that once Devonte Adams is back healthy and he's back able to play, that's when I think this deal is going to go ahead and get done, with it being the Jets or the Texans or the Bills or, whoever. Yes, it definitely will be looming over the franchise, almost kind of like a dark cloud. But like what Maxx Crosby said, like he's used to this. He was drafted by the Raiders. He's been seeing this for the last several years. He signed a free an extension, obviously,
Right.
for a lot of money. We all know that it's well earned. And I can tell you from experience, being an Oakland Raider, he's now a Las Vegas Raider, obviously, but he was drafted as an Oakland Raider, and signing an extension to play several more years with the Raiders. When you sign that extension, you already have been there for a couple years. So you know that there's a lot of turmoil. There's a lot of there's a lot of bad juju that it seems that are kind of floating around throughout the seams of the building. So you already know it, just like what he said. You think that I'm not used to this? I've been going through this for several years. So him signing that not free agent, but that extension, obviously he signs that fully knowing that, there's a lot of turmoil going on within the franchise. It's a lot of uncertainty within the franchise, things like that. Much like I did when I signed my extension, I fully knew of the uncertainty, things like that. So he knows it. And, and I love how he words it. Like, you think I don't know this?
Right.
Like, I'm used to it. So I definitely love what he said, because it was authentic. It was real.
Stan, let me ask you this. As you said, as a former player with the Raiders organization, what's tougher, just the losing or dealing with all the off the field stuff that you've had to deal with?
I think it all goes hand in hand. I think that because of everything going on off the field, it almost makes it impossible to be able to win, because there's so many distractions that you have to deal with Monday through Saturday. And that's before you get to the game on Sunday, that you're already having to go against, as far as whoever it is on the field, whether it's the Broncos, the Chiefs, or the Ravens, or whoever. So you have to deal with these demons Monday through Saturday before you even get to your opponent, the person you've been preparing for all week. So it definitely has an adverse impact. I definitely feel that way. And yeah, I would say that it's probably a tie, since you're asking me a question as far as which one is more. I think it all goes hand in hand, but definitely, the losing is something that it can wear on anybody. There's no doubt about that. And then, the off the field distractions, things like that can weigh on you too. Me personally, I think they both go hand in hand. The teams that you see that are winning usually don't have that many outside distractions. I think they're one and the same. But the one thing I will tell you is, whenever they come to you with a piece of paper and it's an offer that you can't refuse, that definitely softens the blow. But nonetheless, you still want to win. You put in a lot of work all week, every day, going into the games. You want to be rewarded with the W on Sunday, and it definitely makes it difficult. But at the very least, getting paid on Tuesdays, a nice handsome salary, softens the blow that you're going through after every week taking an L in the loss column.
Yeah, I had a fellow Raider fan text me probably midway through the fourth quarter. He says, "I know you would understand this better than anyone else," but he goes, "I need a break from the Raiders." Now, this is a guy, Stan, who's been a Raider fan since the 70s. He used to go to Santa Rosa training camp up there and take photos of all the guys. And I just said, "Hey, look," I just told him, "Look, I know it's frustrating. I know it's difficult." I said, "Just take about 48 hours to decompress, see how you feel in a couple days. And then, we got Sunday coming up, the Steelers at home. Just see how you feel. I know it's difficult. I know it's tough. Everybody's tired of the losing. It's been 2 decades of this. And I said, I don't know when it's going to turn around, but, right now it is what it is and got to deal with it. So we'll see how it goes. We'll monitor the Devonte Adams situation this week, and then we'll get ready for the Pittsburgh Steelers next Sunday at home in Vegas. But for now, that's going to do it for this edition of the Believe in Raiders podcast presented by betonline.ag. For my partner, Stanford Route, I'm Dennis Ackerman. Thanks so much for listening, and may all your punts find the coffin corner.